Yes.
Can you hear us at home?
We can hear you. Yes.
So sorry to keep you waiting. And I just mentioned who is here now. So Ajahn, Jonathan, Alberto, Tom and Bev, Kunwarasak, Dream and Tin, Kun Jagrit's children, Kun Jagrit, Hang, and I think there are one or two others who are about to come in. So quite a full room. And just now at lunchtime, we were having some discussion about meditation. Maybe Bev can summarize some of the discussion.
We were just talking about why meditation is so popular. And I had not realized that meditation was as popular in Sri Lanka as it is here. And we talked about in the West, they do meditation for medical, at least they say it's for medical reasons to reduce stress. But we have no way of knowing. I mean, I have not attended these sessions, so I don't know how they measure that it does reduce stress. And we talked that it is something that feels good. I mean, maybe that's why people continue to do it. It's something that they feel they've done something. It's much harder to listen to the Dhamma and feel that you've done something. So that's in a nutshell about meditation. Thank you.
Yes, we were saying that sometimes people may join discussions and they may study the texts and they may study Pali, but then they have the feeling they need to do something to get some result. And I think you stressed that point, Tom, that people feel they need to do something. Do you have any comments?
Well, we say no pain, no gain. So I think there's the sense that you're doing something different that you've never done before, and it's difficult and you get better at it. So therefore, the results must be positive, but that when it comes to right understanding, I think that it doesn't follow it and doesn't work. So, but I can see why people would fall into that kind of trap of thinking that after suffering and sitting and that they must be getting something somewhere. And so, yeah, it's hard to find a good teacher that can help us understand that.
They may feel they need to isolate in order to think less, so have less time at work or less time with family, or spend more time in the quiet place where there can be more calm. So many different ideas, as we know, or wrong understanding, not understanding Dhamma as part of daily life. And Ajahn, there are many of us here and at home who have known you and studied with you for a very long time. So now it's your 96th birthday. So we appreciate so much the opportunity to keep hearing and studying and understanding the Dhamma with you. I know I speak for everyone. So Anumodana.
Meditation can be anything, but not the teachings of the Buddha. Is there any questions from those who go to meditation center and think that I'm meditating according to the teachings of the Buddha? But in truth, it's not at all. The question, why not? See, no understanding of what is there now as before. what is there now is not known by just sit and meditate on what? Buddha taught for 45 years to understand what is there now as it is. Now as it is. And we are here. It's not meditation or meditation center or meditating at all. It's just hearing what did Buddha say about now, to understand whether it's true or not, because we cannot have any understanding or any idea about the truth of what is there now, because we think that microphone is real, everything is real. But what is the truth of what is seen as microphone or table or thing? Without the teachings of the Buddha, can anyone understand the moment of what is there appearing and then gone? Unknowingly, no matter it's the moment of rising or falling away, not knowing. And if we meditate, can there be any understanding of this moment as it is? Because in the meditation center or at the meditation center, what one is doing, sitting, standing, walking, slowly.
The point that people don't appreciate is that now as it is, it's exactly the same in the Buddha's time as now, exactly the same, no matter whether in the forest or at home, at work, in this country or that country. And like we said yesterday, seeing is seeing, no matter we're talking about the snake or the monkey or the insect, or now it's just the reality of seeing. Hearing is just hearing, regardless of where and when. Thinking is just thinking, no matter what is thought about. So the truths, the realities, no different at all from now or the Buddha's time, for the monks or the lay people, for the old or the young. The truth is always just the same, just as it is at this moment. The stories are different, but the thinking itself, the seeing itself, the hearing itself, visible object that's seen, sound that's heard, just the same, no different at all. And this is why the Buddha's teachings, the truths are universal, common to all, no matter whether there's any understanding or no understanding, no matter what realm one is in.
It seems like everyone understands what meditation is, the teachings of the Buddha now.
And well, it's not just meditation, it's really any kind of practice that is the problem. So there, I think one of the things people find difficult is the fact that the conditioned realities the Buddha spoke about can only be known by panya if it arises. I think this basic reality is difficult to grasp. So people think, okay, the Buddha describes seeing invisible object, hearing and sound. It must be possible to see these, to examine them in some way. And so that's what gives rise, I think, to the idea of a practice, whether it's in a meditation center or any kind of, it could even be in daily life. If there's the idea that by focusing attention by paying attention to certain things, that realities can be seen as they are, then that's the essence of the problem, the wrong view. And if those realities aren't being seen, then people are maybe concerned there's no progress in the Dhamma. So I think that's the difficulty in accepting that awareness and reality only arise by condition. Awareness and understanding only arise by conditions, and who knows when those conditions will be present.
And one other point that came up when we were having our chat earlier is that people may think now they have studied and discussed the pariyatti and now it's time for patipatti. So they think that patipatti is to do something, to practice. They don't understand that patipatti is the direct understanding of the realities that have been carefully considered and firmly understood to appear at this very moment, like sound that is heard now, this wise thinking about it at this moment, but the understanding has to develop to directly understand it. And the greatest obstacle to directly understanding realities, the greatest obstacle to patipatti is when there's the wrong idea of a self doing something, focusing on an object, selecting an object, concentrating on an object, trying to be aware. So the result is the opposite of what one would like when one follows a special practice of any kind.
And I think it's worth mentioning another myth or common misunderstanding about the Dhamma, and that is that it's all about having more kusala. And if that is one's notion of what the Dhamma, the development of the path, it means, then of course one is looking to have more kusala and looking to find that there's lesser kusala. And therefore one's focus or attention is on the mental state at the moment. And that is a wrong grasp of the Buddha's teaching, because it's a teaching about understanding the reality that is appearing at the present moment. But for many people, there's a difficulty in relating understanding of, say, sound at the present moment to the development of kusala, having more kusala in one's life. And I think that's another reason why people may find some kind of practice more appealing. One.
One, two, three. And I'd like to make the observation and follow by question that in the Pitaka, there is the wording of Vipassana Pavana and Samatha Pavana. So many people understand that there's two kinds of Pavana or development. They know that what is Vipassana Pavana, to study, to understand the teaching of the Buddha. But Samatha Pavana, people understand that thing that should be developed, calmness. So in Thailand, many people understand this kind of meaning of this Pavana. Even though one day when I'm in my office, people always say that you should practice meditation. This is the samatha bhavana. They think about it. So how can we understand the different, Ajahn Kap, about samatha bhavana correctly? That's not relating at all with the meditation that people always do around Thailand or around the world. It's not. That is not samatha bhavana. So how can we understand more correctly about this wording?
Do they understand what's the meaning of samatha and bhavana?
In their own thinking.
Yes, but what is bhavana and what is samatha? It's not just the word.
Bhavana is development. They know.
Okay, when it's not the word, what is it? For example, samatha, what is it? Seeing, what is it? Thinking, what is it? It's not just the name, but the reality of different ones. Is seeing samatha? See? Or is understanding samatha? See, it needs more consideration to understand the truth of the difference between even samatha and seeing, or samatha with understanding. Samatha is samatha, it cannot be understanding. So we just speak the word that we don't understand at all from birth. No understanding of what is meant by samatha, or vipassana, or seeing, or hearing, or thinking at all. And that is not the teachings of the Buddha, because he taught the truth about what is there now to be known as it is. Who knows what's seeing right now? They're seeing right now. But what is it? Just want to understand what samatha is, or how to have samatha, or what's the meaning of samatha. But now seeing, is it samatha? If it's not, what is it? To know that it's not samatha. So each word of the Buddha is to understand the absolute truth, ultimate truth of what is there, which cannot be changed at all. If there's no understanding of seeing right now, can there be the understanding of samatha? In the old days, they didn't have any understanding of the truth at all before the enlightenment of the Buddha. As much as they can understand is the difference between moment of akusala and kusala, and see the danger of akusala, that it's not calm at all. That's why they had some understanding of how to be calm, but not to understand the truth. That's why samatha is calmness, and without right understanding, who knows whether this moment is calm or not. Just talk about it.
And one thing for sure, so samatha is calmness, passaddhi cetasika. And calmness is there with any kind of kusala, but at a moment of trying to be calm, trying to have kusala, like trying to have metta now, at that moment of trying or wishing, no calmness at all, because it's lobha at that moment. I want to have metta, so different from when metta arises, when there's friendliness to those around. At those moments of metta, there is calmness, but not by trying or wanting to get something for oneself. So when there is an idea of doing something to have samatha bhavana, it cannot be a development of calmness. It cannot be any calmness at all. So for any kind of bhavana, no matter samatha bhavana or vipassana bhavana, it has to begin with understanding. And in the case of samatha bhavana, it has to begin with the understanding of what is calm, what is kusala, what is akusala, why does this object condition calm? For example, what is metta now? What is the object of metta? What is calm at that moment? Completely different from trying to be calm or trying to develop calm. Just like with the understanding of reality, it's not by trying to understand the object.
So we can say when there is kusala occurring naturally in daily life, as it does, there is samatha also. Must be because the calm, the mental factor that is the signature of calmness, of kusala citta, is there. But development, bhavana, as Sarah mentioned, requires panya. So samatha is one thing. Development of samatha is calm with understanding of what conditions the calm, or something like that. But it has to be calmness that arises naturally. There cannot be true kusala by deciding to have metta to other people, or by thinking about other people, thinking of may other beings be well, in order to, with the idea that one is developing calm, is totally mistaken, because if for a start it's not kusala, because kusala only arises by conditions, and also it can't be with understanding, because that also only arises by conditions, not by following a practice.
Jonathan, is there any point in developing samatha if one understands the Buddha's teachings? Is it just pointless when one begins to understand the teachings of the Buddha?
Well, that question seems to assume that there can be a choice to develop samatha or not, but that's not the way it is. If the conditions are there, kusala will arise, and if there are conditions, panya will also arise. There'll be some understanding of what conditions the calm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a matter of saying there's a point to doing it or having it or not.
Right.
Because actually all kusala is worth developing, to put it another way, whether it's dana or sila or any kind of kusala is worthwhile, but not all kusala leads to the ending of samsara.
Mm-hmm.
So only the kusala that is the understanding of the true nature of realities actually leads in the direction of the ending of samsara.
So samatha, it really is a matter of accumulation. What one has naturally accumulated in interest that...
I think also, like understanding, that we talk about the development of awareness and understanding, there are conditions or factors for its arising. So one may have accumulated a lot of kusala, but one may not, until one hears about it, appreciate the value of kusala. One may just have the idea it's good to be helpful, or one may think it just leads to a pleasant rebirth or something like that. But there's more to it than that. Kusala has value in its own right.
And I feel like it seems like when there is seeing harm of akusala and seeing the benefit of kusala and seeing the calmness, and then like they go under the tree and jhana and all that, and it seems like something to do, like going there and it's like my mind will be calmer, calm from akusala. It's very, Dhamma is very deep and very profound and very subtle. So it's very, very hard to understand at this point.
Yes, it sounds very appealing, perhaps even more appealing than enlightenment and jhana.
Thank you.
I think the point, Alan, is that for those who
Your voice is not that clear.
I think the point, Alan, is that for those who see the value in understanding the truth and understand what realities are, there's no concern or interest in what it is that is to be understood now, because any reality can be the object of understanding. So no interest to develop samatha to attain jhanas, because no matter whether it's jhana or dosa or kindness or seeing or hardness that appears now, any reality can be the object of understanding.
Thank you.
I mean, in other words, even the metta for people who have the accumulations of great metta, if there's understanding of the Buddha's teachings, they would know that metta needs to be known for what it is, as just a Dhamma.
Mhm.
And Alan, one can have an interest in developing kusala without even thinking of it as being samatha and the development of samatha. I think it's natural for most people to appreciate the value of kusala at some level. Don't have to think of it as, now this is developing samatha or whatever.
Mhm.
Because even all kusala actually appreciate the kusala that is, so everything is good, right? If good the kusala arising and is good, and that appreciating is something to really appreciate. It's not something that, oh, this it shouldn't arise and all that selection like this.
And the development of Vipassana is a condition for calm in any case. So it's the byproduct of understanding reality, isn't it? So in a way, samatha is developed when developing Vipassana or understanding of reality. There will be the development of calm as a result by conditions because of that development of understanding of reality.
And like we said the other day, this is the higher calm, the superior calm that develops naturally with understanding of realities.
Yes, and what you're describing, Alan, is actually not a condition for, but it's intrinsic. The calm is intrinsic to the development of the understanding. It's inherently there.
Yes, at the moment of understanding, there is calm at that moment. Yeah.
Brief Jagrit, no one can do samatha bhavana. No one can practice samatha bhavana. No one, full stop. So samatha is the calm with kusala, and the highest calm is the calm with the understanding of realities that develops with understanding. So when people have the idea that they are doing samatha bhavana in the office, but actually no understanding of anything, just developing more clinging, more wrong understanding. bring up your topic of sleep and sleep deprivation and sleep. No, it was what you've been reading and studying and.
Actually, this was a discussion we had with some friends last night, and it was really a physiological discussion about the moment of sleep when there is no thinking, the deepest sleep. And it was interesting that they say if you don't have that period of sleep, it's actually can cause a lot of disease, that it's very unhealthy for humans. I think, does that cover so it was just interesting to see the intersection with science and the teachings at some level.
I think there's also another factor, and that is, I think there's a lot of clinging to sleep and a lot of thinking about sleep, like, because I've had a few sleepless nights, a lot of time sitting because up in the night with not being well. So one has the idea in the morning, oh, I'm going to have these problems because I didn't have a good night's sleep. And one thinks a lot about it. But one time on a trip to India, when I had exactly the same problem, and I mentioned, and everyone was being very sympathetic and giving me lots of assistance in the morning. But when someone mentioned it to Ajahn, her comment was, it's gone. It's just gone. You know, we think about like even the little cough I had 5 minutes ago, or the problem one had last night, or I didn't get my 8 hours good quality sleep, and one thinks and obsesses about it. But what about the understanding? It's all gone. It's all gone, no matter what sleep it is. It's all by conditions. And the clinging and the thinking and obsessing causes a lot of the problems.
And also, if you had a good night's sleep or haven't slept for 5 days, the seeing is the same. Seeing is seeing, hearing is hearing. It's exactly the same.
Is there any meaning of it's gone, all gone? Does it mean anything?
Your picture, Sukhin.
Papa, are you there?
Yes, that question was for me.
Video, it's good, Sukhin. Yes, it was for you.
For anyone,
Can you repeat it? I didn't quite
for
hear.
anyone.
Okay. So anyway, it's gone. What it means is like the seeing just now is gone already. The hearing now, gone already. Whatever arises in life is gone instantly. So there's always thinking and clinging to what is nothing because it's gone. It's just the story about what happened, even the thinking a moment ago about the cough or the thinking about Sukhin's picture, that thinking, it's all gone. So that is what is meant by life at this moment, the breaking world at this moment. But usually there's so much thinking and dreaming about what has gone or what may come next, what will happen, and forgetting about what is true, what is real at this very moment.
And we always think about that which is not here and now. For example, just moments ago, we're talking or thinking about sleeping, and then many subjects. But what is there now? Can there be the understanding of sleeping? Just talk about it. Just the word about it. But what about the truth of this moment? Can it be known no matter its moment of being asleep or not? only that can be known, but we don't think about it at all. We keep on moving on to other subject, on and on and on until now. So is it conditions to understand what is there now? Just forget about what is there now. Is there that which seems like sleeping, but it's not sleep? See, very deep, but it's there to be known. What is meant by sleep, sleeping, being asleep.
Chan, are you referring to moments when it is not seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and not thinking, which is arising now? Yeah.
Bhavanga,
Yeah.
in between.
Was referring to earlier from the studies, the deep sleep when there's no dreaming. This is the bhavangas, the real sleep.
This also followed on from yesterday when Maeve was asking about dreaming. And dreaming when sometimes you are aware of through the sense doors of sound in your dream, but there are times when you're dreaming and there doesn't seem anything coming through the sense doors. And I think that's followed on with dreaming, and Ajahn says we are living in a dream.
That's why we better talk about the absolute truth of each moment, each reality. No matter life is a dream, what does it mean? Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, just in split seconds and then gone, never to return at all. Is it not just like a dream? So there are many meanings of what is meant by dream. The bhavanga now in between. So the process of seeing is gone, and then bhavanga, no more seeing, just a moment ago, and then hearing now, gone, and bhavanga in between. And this is the truth of life. Just moment of experiencing an object, and then bhavanga in between.
Is the bhavanga of every moment that's constantly appearing in our daily life and the bhavanga of what we call deep sleep, is there any difference?
This moment, seeing is not hearing. There must be bhavanga in between. Is it known now? Not directly, but there can be the understanding of the seeing as it's not hearing. So there must be a moment of not experienced anything before hearing, after seeing, or before seeing. This is life, not permanent at all.
So the bhavanga citas are arising and falling away in between each sense and mind or process. They don't appear because they're not the object through any doorway, but they're rising and falling away. And the bhavanga citas now in between the processes, exactly the same as the bhavanga citas in deep sleep, the same kind of citta, accompanied by the same cetasikas, experiencing the same object for the whole of life, and exactly the same as the patisandhi citta, the birth consciousness, same object, same cetasikas, and the same as the chuti citta, the last moment of life. It's just that the patisandhi and the chuti have different functions, so they have a different name, but exactly the same kind of citta, conditioned by the same karma in the past for the whole of life.
At moment of understanding the truth, even just at that very moment, it's not with ignorance or attachment. Little by little, understanding what is there, to have more confidence of the truth of actually Life exists only in just a moment. Seeing and then no seeing, hearing and then no hearing. Very short. As they are not known, I see, I hear, I think now. And I am calm, or whatever one thought will lead to. Because not understanding the truth of this very moment. That's why no matter we talk about anything, what about now? Because that can be directly understood, because it's there now, while the other is just the object of thinking. Talking about calmness, is it there now? That's why right understanding begins at moment of understanding what is there now.
Always remind us what is most precious now is a moment of understanding, not whether one had a good or a bad night or what story we're interested in, but it's always back to this moment. And it is calm at that moment of understanding. Nina, did you want to bring up your topic for today?
Oh. Yes, I have something. When there is no ignorance, I heard, there is no mixture of the sense door and the mind door. But when there is ignorance, we mix. But what is that mixture? How do we mix? We may wonder.
I think mixing just means not understanding. It just means ignorance. Like Ajahn just mentioned to Tom or Bev, we have to understand each reality. Otherwise, everything gets mixed together.
But we know in theory that sense door is not mind door. But do we really understand? It's so fast. It's gone already. So it depends on Panya.
But each one is different.
They're different. But do we really understand? We can hear it and repeat it.
Because the characteristic of a reality, excuse me.
I'll just say some other words while Ajahn is pausing for a minute. I was going to say that the difficulty you mentioned, because they're so fast, but the difficulty I think with seeing realities as they are is not because they're so fast, because there's always the nimitta that can be seen. So the problem is not the speed of arising and falling away. The problem is lack of understanding or lack of seeing them for what they are, that is to say, their nature. There's never going to be the seeing of separate moments. It'll always be the nimitta of many, many moments of, say, seeing or visible object or attachment or whatever. So the mixing happens because the different realities are not seen as they are. And naturally, when they're not seen as they are, there's no distinguishing, for example, seeing from visible object. And even you could say sound, visible object and sound are mixed because the mind associates the person as someone who is there and is speaking. And there's no idea of these being different realities at that time for the most part.
And also, I think the trouble is, the difficulty is that we think of the story of reality, not the reality now. So I came across a passage in a book when we say seeing is not I, there is only an idea about reality, not the actual moment of seeing. And we are usually forgetful and do not investigate the truth ourselves. What do you say, Jonathan? You are very inspiring. I like it when you ask questions. It inspires me to consider more.
Well, what caught my attention in what you just read was the last bit. We do not investigate the truth ourselves. There's no way for the truth to be investigated other than, of course, the development of awareness and understanding. So it's not a case of the truth is being investigated and then there is the seeing of realities as they are. It's one and the same thing. If there is awareness of different realities, then the truth is being investigated. So it always comes back to the same thing, that there are certain conditions for the arising of awareness and understanding, and it will happen as and when those conditions are in place. So in the meantime, there has to be patience, rather than being carried away by the wish to have a better understanding of realities, which is, of course, as misguided as the person who has the idea of wanting to have more kusala in their life too. But we've discussed that often, and I know you appreciate the importance of that.
But we confuse an idea about seeing and the actual moment. And Ajahn often says, no words needed, no words needed. That's a good reminder. Don't you think so?
Yes, I do, because there are realities appearing now, and for example, there's no doubt a lot of thinking about what has been seen, because there are images of people and things, there are ideas of people and things coming to mind, and that indicates, of course, that what's appearing now is thinking rather than the actual seeing and or visible object, hearing and sound.
And we take it for seeing, but it is not seeing, it is already thinking.
Yes, we do take it for seeing.
Yeah.
That's the conventional understanding of what's happening now. There's seeing and hearing. And conventionally, that's true, of course. There's no question about that. But when it comes to the understanding of realities, we know that the situation is different from the conventional one. So in terms of absolute realities, it's not correct to say that what's appearing now is seeing and hearing. The presence of actual seeing consciousness is an assumption at the present moment, because there's a lot of thinking about what has been seen. But it's by hearing the Dhamma and discussing the different realities and their different functions that there may be conditions for seeing consciousness to be directly known, or visible object to be directly known, different from thinking about what has been seen.
I mean, if Dhamma is meant to be understand all the reality, it's not meant to be saying ideas and all that. When you understand, that's the important. That's what understanding understood that this is important. Other thing is not important.
So it's the intellectual understanding that will be a condition for direct understanding.
That's correct. There can't be direct understanding until there is firm understanding of the intellectual kind about what is appearing at the present moment of the different realities.
So John, what you were just describing to Nina, is it similar to what Ajahn often reminds us, that we never think about that which experiences? Usually we're absorbed in what's being experienced, but not no attention, no mind to think or consider the chitta that's doing that's the hearing, the seeing, the thinking, etc. Is this what you were just expressing?
Yes, that is obviously correct. And I think that I was putting it slightly differently, without disagreeing with that in the slightest. But I was just saying that the conventional notion is that there's seeing and hearing now, but in fact, it's probably thinking about what's been seen and heard.
I mean, what you're saying here is that what we sometimes come to conclude that I'm hearing, I'm seeing, is actually an inference based on the sound heard or the visual object seen.
Based on the fact that there's thinking about the visible and the heard. So one can say quite without any hesitation that there must be seeing and hearing going on, but it's not directly known, it's assumed.
A lot about seeing, and seeing is there now. And we heard about it. It's conditioned to arise just to see. No doubt, there can be a little understanding of the truth of seeing right now. Not enough to let go the idea of self as I see. It means that how long it had been accumulated to the idea of self. And just hearing sometimes about seeing, it sees now, it experiences an object, it's conditioned to see, and what conditions it? There must be the eye base, the rupa, and that which can impinge on it, condition the moment of seeing. Many, many times, not enough to let go the idea of self, because it's so very deeply rooted. That's why patience to know the path leading to understand a little more, not just think about the other way, doing something in order to understanding it is impossible. That's why, again, seeing now sees, it is conditioned little by little. It develops like holding the knife's handle, see? The moment when it's worn away is not known at all, but it's there gradually, little by little. That's why it takes quite a long time. How long? One knows. Beyond anyone can think about it at all. But the understanding which develop further a little more, conditioned moment of it's there already, of that stage to understand it at the level of it's a reality which experiences. And not only seeing, hearing, thinking, smelling, they are all the reality which arises to experience an object again and again and again. And that is the only way, the subtle way, to understand the truth of what is there now as it is. That's why we understand what's meant by parami, with our patience, with our viriya, with our satya, being truthful, with our adhidana, confidence of the truth. What else can be known? Only that which now appears as it is, but it's not time yet. That's why understand more about reality in life as its conditioned reality. No one can do anything, not under anyone's control. Actually, there's no one. This is the way to let go the idea of self or thing from that which is touched, not my hand. Just hardness and hardness and hardness. And if it hasn't a reason, how can it appear? But it's there by conditions. And then there is thinking about it. It means that there is no more hardness. But it's not known, it's not clear, but it's the beginning of having firm confidence of the truth, little by little. That's why all the way of the path leading to let go the wrong understanding and the idea of self has to be right understanding of what is there. No selection at all. Whatever is there depends on whether there's enough conditions to develop the understanding of the truth of it. Easygoing, naturally. Otherwise, lopa is there, lurking, unknown, until right understanding knows that it's there, hinder the understanding of the truth. That's why Buddha pointed out all kinds of realities at different stages, like asava. See, it's there. No body at all. Nothing can be done, but it can be known from hearing the truth little by little.
About asava, I heard Jonathan say, when it appears, it is no longer an asava.
Right.
I didn't quite get that.
Okay. Who's sitting there? Asava, even it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
It lurks there after moments of experiencing an object through one doorway. It's there, asava.
We know because the Buddha taught us.
That's it.
It doesn't appear.
Mm-hmm. But not just to believe, but to study carefully whether it's true or not. Even we don't speak out, I am sitting. It's there. Asava.
Nina, your voice, we can't hear you. Nina.
We don't speak out. It's still I who is sitting. And this is a very important point.
The same as I hear now. See, we don't have to speak out. Asava is there. Avijjasava, Bhavasava, Diddhasava, and Kamasava, depending on the object.
So Nina, in other words, even while we are talking about the wrongness of meditation and meditators and wrong understanding on their part, what Achan is saying is that maybe it's Ditthasava already arising there at that time.
We know in theory quite, but do we really understand what is asava? Because when it appears, it is no longer asava, and that is the point.
Well,
Difficult.
Nina, it's just a term for certain unwholesome realities that we are familiar with, but which are arising very weakly at a very subtle level, so they don't appear.
Yeah.
Even though there's not the thought, I am sitting, there is still the lurking, just a very subtle notion of it being I who is sitting, which doesn't actually manifest as a thought that can be that can appear. So if there is the thought that appears that I am sitting, then it's the same akusala tendency, but it's not called an asava because it's appearing.
Yes, and only Panya can know.
Know what?
I am sitting. That there is an idea of
Well,
I am
it can be the thought I am sitting without panya, can't there? It can be, one can have the idea I am sitting and know that that's a thought without panya arising.
but I hardly ever think I am sitting.
Right. So that's another point, because a lot of the time there is no conscious relation of what is happening to I. So when I'm brushing my teeth, for example, I don't think it's I who am brushing the teeth. I mean, one's thoughts are probably on something else. But the point is that even though there's no actual thought of I brushing my teeth, lurking away at a level that is not perceptible to us is that very thought, because it's been accumulated and it's so strong, but it's very subtle. It's arising, but very subtle, so it doesn't appear.
Yeah.
That's all. So that's the only, that's the significance of asava. It's arising, but not appearing to be known. So if it appears and can be known, then we wouldn't call it an asava, but it's still the same akusala tendency in both cases.
Just like how anusaya don't appear, like even anusaya do not appear because they are the tendencies. When akusala chitta arise, then that's yeah.
It's like when there's clinging, when we're eating our lunch, it's obvious there's a lot of strong clinging. And what about now? Clinging all the time, clinging to what's seen, what's heard, but it's not so apparent. But the understanding has to delve deeper and deeper to understand more and more subtle kinds of clinging when it appears. That's all. So we know there are more subtle kinds of clinging that are not apparent, the asavas, but they have to be understood, and then they're not asavas anymore. So it doesn't matter about the word, it's just pointing to the fact that there has to be understanding of more and more subtle kinds of clinging, more and more subtle kinds of wrong view, more and more subtle kinds of ignorance.
Or we could even say it doesn't matter whether the attachment that's being understood now is subtle or gross, because what is most important is understanding the characteristic of the reality as it appears. And of course, it's natural that as understanding develops, that more subtle kinds of attachment will become the object. But as we've said before, it's just the understanding of the nature of different realities as anicca, dukkha, anatta, not how much of attachment there is. That's the important thing in the development of the path.
But John, we can say, I mean, what you're saying is that as the understanding develops, even the subtle kilesas can be known gradually. But we can say that even at this point, hearing about it, there can be some understanding at the level of hearing.
Well, understanding at the level of hearing, do you mean intellectual, theoretical understanding?
That's what he means, intellectual.
Yeah, intellectual understanding. And I was just thinking just now when Sarah was talking about the same thing, that what appears when it's gross, then you can, if there's understanding of the gross, at that moment, there might be an understanding that there must be subtle levels of that same reality. So I'm wondering whether it goes hand in hand.
Well, I'm not sure I follow, sorry, but there'll be understanding and there'll be thinking about what has been understood, I suppose. Yes.
I think when he mentioned hearing, he meant considering, intellectual considering. That was...
I'm not sure if you're using intellectual understanding in the sense of pariyatti or just like comprehension of the meaning of what's been said, with or without.
I'm talking about pariyatti. That's why I gave the second example, that if there's some understanding of the loka that appears now, and then because you've heard that there are subtle levels, whether that lopa that has appeared, that understanding can also be that lopa that appeared must have appeared in a more subtle level. And so when you hear that about the asavas, then you agree that it must be there. Or even the kilesas that never appear.
Quite a lot of
Even
thinking, separate, different from the actual moment of understanding.
I'll say like this, like there's eye base and they're seeing, and they have to be an object that touch the eye base in order for seeing to understand. Seeing consciousness arise, they appear, but not the eye base. They cannot be direct awareness to the eye base, but they can be intellectual, that they indeed they have to be eye based in order seeing consciousness to arise, like that kind, like.
Yes, you're right, something like that, you know. Yeah.
So I think it's not possible to say whether that would be just thinking or a kind of understanding. I don't know. I suppose it would vary from one person to the other.
From one moment to another. There can be moments of wise considering about eye base, which visible object must have impinged on for the seeing now. And there can be moments of just thinking about it with ignorance or clinging. So depends on the citta at this moment, and only understanding can know.
We're getting into the area of trying to expand the moment of understanding to include other realities. And
Well, I'm trying to go into that territory where Achan says sometimes words are not needed. Similarly, I mean, with when it's with kilesas, the asvas, there's no necessary thinking about it. So I'm thinking the same way when there's understanding, it's not necessary there's any particular thought, but the understanding is there.
Well, if understanding is there, understanding will know it's there, I suppose.
Just getting back to Tom's topic about Bhavanga Chitas, I was just considering how it relates to what we said yesterday about how in truth there's no snake, no ant, no human, they're just different chitas, chetasikas, arupas arising and falling away. Seeing is seeing, hearing is hearing. But we can also say that the Bhavanga chitas, which are exactly the same for the whole life, we can say that, well, Ajahn uses the expression, there is the personality for the life. The Bhavanga chitas of what we call the snake are different from the Bhavanga chitas of what we call the human. The Bhavanga chitas of the snake are the result of akusala karma. So they are akusala vipaka chitas with no roots, whereas the Bhavanga chitas of the human, kusala vipaka, with wholesome roots. So this is the reason that this one comes to be called the snake and this one the human. But perhaps Ajahn may like to add more on this topic.
We listen to the truth, right? Bhavanga. It cannot be just seeing and then hearing at once. But between hearing and seeing, is there anything or something? Or what is there?
Bhavanga chitas.
Moments of citta, which does not see and does not hear in between. Is this so true? So when it appears, it's the moment of experiencing the difference between seeing and hearing, that they are apart. And what is there in between to make it known as it's not the same one at all? Seeing cannot be hearing and hearing cannot be seeing. It's there, no word, but in words, the citta is there, not seeing and hearing like in the process, that's all. That's why we listen to the teachings of the Buddha, to have firm understanding, firm confidence of the truth. And that is the development of understanding. Each moment of understanding is there, conditioned, firm understanding of the truth, little by little, about what is Bhavanga. Usually in a day, it does not appear, but while one is fast asleep, no experience of the sense door and mind door at all. But there must be moment which keeps on being that person, life continuum, not to end up the personality of this life as what we take for I or someone yet. So all Dhammas beginning to have firm confidence of Dhamma, that what is Dhamma, it's a reality, and they are different. One arises to experience an object, even right now not known, but we can learn a little bit about this moment. It's moment of seeing, and it's moment of hearing, different moments. That's why life goes on so rapidly, very rapidly, unknown about what are there from moment to moment. But they are as they are in life now, from morning to night, even sleep. It's not death. But at moment of death, it's exactly like sleep, Bhavanga. nothing to fear at all, because everyone would like to sleep. Why not like to die? See, that's why ignorance is there. But the way it is, no one at all. It keeps on going by conditions. There cannot be Tom or Beverly after death, for sure. Where we're what we take for Tom and Beverly, or Sarah and Jonathan or I, only moments of different condition, reality. Only once in samsara, never arise again. Not significant at all. Because it's gone, no matter what it is. And this is the condition to let go the idea of self or thing, because in truth, seeing sees that which can be seen, and that which can be seen cannot be anything at all. So when it shows up as it is, clearly, no doubt about that which is seen, what is meant by that which is seen. No one, nothing at all. So fast, and when it's clear, it has to be through mind or process. Because since thou cannot understand the nature of that which experience the object, but mind thou can understand anything. So mind thou is not I or anything, saying is not I or anything. Just learn to understand the truth of what is there in split seconds. That's all. Non-stop by conditions until there's no conditions for it to arise, for whatever arises. Then there cannot be anything arise at all. Without clear understanding of the truth as no one and nothing, it's impossible to let go attachment to that which appears at all. Because no understanding of the truth that it appears and disappears. Keep on thinking about it over and over again. But what is there? Thinking, not the moment of seeing. And this is life. So the teachings of the truth is to understand what is there now in a moment, which is life, because it experiences an object. No one can stop. The reality which is conditioned to arise to experience by different characteristics. Citta is the chief of experiencing the clear characteristic of the object. That's why there are so many different things, because citta experiences it clear. But the cetasika share the same object, experience the same object, but it has its characteristic. It's not the chief of experiencing, but it experiences the same object that citta experience, and its function is to cling or ignorant, not understanding the truth. So it's any moment in life beginning to be known little by little, gradually, very gradually. And who knows that this is moment of developing firm confidence of the truth, when there's a little more understanding. That's why Buddha taught about everything, because without understanding more about the truth, it's impossible to let go the idea of self. So very deeply rooted, years and years ago, and no one there at all. But the path, the Eightfold Path, Panya is there, so truthful to the truth. Otherwise, it cannot be right understanding. So now, right understanding or wrong understanding, what level? At moment of talking or any moment of that which arises to experience, there are many realities arising together, unknown. And even it's known in a day as I like it very much. no understanding of it's not I. So realities are there in life, many, many different moments, at moment of feeling, thinking about such and such object in different manners. They are dhammas that can be known. What are they one by one? Attachment is not aversion, it's not interest, it's not attention, it's not one-pointedness, it's not feeling, it's not memory, all are dhammas. Otherwise, without these words of understanding, how can it be known as actually? It's conditioned to be such and such, not by anyone's will at all, because in truth, there's no one, no matter what is there, by conditions. And not just one condition, many, many conditions. For example, even a moment of seeing, it needs the rupa, which is the base for its arising, because the citta cannot arise out of the body. It's there at one of the rupa, no matter what kind of citta. And if the object is not that which impinges on the eye base, there cannot be seeing. So now, in the day, seeing seems that it's there all the time, but in truth, it's there only in a process so short. So in a day, the absolute truth is dark or light. But realities do not appear as it is. It seems that there is always seeing from morning to night. But what are there? Hearing is not light, it's so dark. And when we talk about darkness, darker than when we turn off the light. So the world is not as it is, because the world appears as so many things, many people, but in truth, just one reality, arising and falling away, only one at a time. And darkness is there when it's not light at moment of seeing only. So now there is hearing and thinking, smelling, tasting, touching in darkness. So what is true is not to believe, but to understand whether it's as it is. Without seeing, the world is dark. Smelling in darkness, thinking in darkness. But even so, when there's no understanding, it's I who cannot see. I who hear, I who think, but I cannot see. Still I, even at moment of not seeing anything at all, it's still I cannot see. That's why only right understanding develops gradually, naturally, to understand whatever now which is not known yet. If it's still not known, there cannot be the eradication of the idea of self or thing at all. It's the world of ignorance. So there can be the understanding of the difference between ignorance and right understanding. And one might think, where is ignorance? See? So close as the seeing. No understanding of seeing. That's why without the word of the enlightened one, nobody can understand the truth, the hidden truth, so very subtle. And not understanding the path leading to realize the truth from listening carefully and understand the truth, that it has to be such like we heard about the truth, but it does not appear. Why not? Because no understanding of anything for it to appear as it is. Because no understanding of seeing as it's just now, not moment of hearing, see? So hearing is dark and seeing is now sees many things in light, it seems, but so very short. That's why all dhammas, which is conditioned to arise, falls away instantly. But you see that even the understanding from hearing, considering, to be the moment of directly beginning of awareness of the truth with some understanding, not enough. It is just another higher level of understanding, because now we are talking about hardness. No understanding of hardness, even hardness is there. We're talking about seeing, no understanding of seeing as it is, yet, but begin to learn about the truth of seeing. It's a reality which arises to experience that which touches the eye base. Only seeing cannot see what's there in the back. It does not impinge on the eye base. But what is there impinge on it? Falls away instantly. So how can it be many things like it appears now? So we live in the world of ignorance and clinging, dreaming until the end of this life, and then dream again of next life as someone and something. Is this true? That's to be considered, not just to be believed. That's why we begin to understand who's the Buddha, the enlightened one, who directly experienced the truth. No one can compare. What he taught is just from his understanding compared to few leaves in his hand and the leaves in the forest. Even reality, see, can anyone know that what is the meaning of a reality? It's not that which we think about. For example, thinking about someone. What is there in truth? See, there must be memory of that object and vitaka, thinking about it, or touch it, not touching the other object, but the object which sanya marks and remember. And even we like to think about that particular one so much, it's impossible whether they can be thinking about it or not. But we don't want to think about that at all. But it's there all day. Just thinking about that, we don't like to think about it all, see, by conditions. So anything can be learned to understand the truth of it, that it's not permanent at all. It cannot be anything permanent at all. So how much ignorance, seeing this and that as something, someone, the world. But in truth, what is seen is gone. And the succession of that which keeps on experiencing such shape and form as something, cling to it as it's there. A pen is there, no pen. So this life is the life which has opportunity to listen to the truth, to consider whether it's true or not, to have confidence by hearing and considering each word as it is, whether it's true or not. This moment, see, true or not. Moment of seeing, true or not. Moment of hearing, another moment, true or not. Moment of thinking, all by conditions. And this is the way being truthful to the truth develop to understand the truth. And understanding is a reality which is conditioned to arise. So now, when it's only the intellectual level of understanding, it's not yet directly understanding what is there. Even it's hard, it cannot be known as it is. And there's hardness appearing in a day. Many, many times, no understanding of it until hearing about. At moment of experiencing hardness, no one and nothing there at all. No seeing, no hearing. Only that appears and disappears instantly, unknown. Until the words of truth from the enlightenment just talk about it, about the truth of it. But someone cannot understand, and someone can understand. Not everyone can see the value of understanding the truth because it's so true. Otherwise, what is life? What is a pen? What is a thing? What is food? What is whatever in life? Unknown as it is. But there can be moment of understanding of what is there, even sleeping, see? Is it real? No understanding. I slept, but in truth, moment of not experiencing anything through the 6 star ways, only that. And who can stop being waking up to experience the object? By conditions. Even sleeping and waking is conditioned.
Think of this person or this personality for life, but actually, in truth, there's no person or no personality at all because just one citta after another. So because of the Bhavanga cittas, which are conditioned by karma, and all the other cittas conditioned in different ways, there comes to be the thinking about this person or that person, this personality, that personality for this life. But actually, it's just a dream because at the moment of seeing, it's only the visible object seen. At the moment of thinking, it's just thinking about the story of what's seen or heard. So in truth, no personality for life at all. Tin or Dream or Marcy, do any of you have any topic or you wish to bring up today?
Hello.
Can I ask
There's a question coming from the floor here. So again.
Hello, I have a question about dosa, cetasika. Before studying Dhamma, I thought dosa was some kind of anger and like rage. But now that I've read some about dosa, there's different degrees. I guess my question would be in like sadness, anxiousness, fear, and all other kinds of emotion that doesn't like really enjoy the reality. These different kind of different degrees of dosa. Can you explain a little bit about that? Like the differences and what is conventionally like known as like anxiousness and stuff like this. Yeah,
Is the dosa
exactly.
right now. So that's how it can be understood, because it's now, like you mentioned the other day when speaking, there's anxiousness about What will people think? What will be the result? So it's actually right now so common in a Dhamma discussion, like the when one's a little bit too hot or a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit anxious about what will be said or slightly bored with the topic. So common. So it's now. So the understanding always has to be now of what appears. And that's the way it can be understood. And it doesn't matter whether we're calling it fear or anxiety or nervousness or embarrassment or anything else. As soon as there's unpleasant feeling, even a tiny bit, dosa is there. And if there was no clinging, could there be any dosa?
Of course not.
Yeah.
Because
Like-
it's like a preference, right?
Like, what will people think? Are you concerned about what people will think about what Tom says or Jonathan says? No, it's me clinging. Yeah. So the clinging is always behind it. So even just a little bit, even now, we may think, oh, it was so wonderful listening to Ajahn speak for 10 minutes. But different citas, moments of understanding, moments of clinging, moments of dosa, whatever arises in life is just for a moment and then gone. Not my dosa, not my clinging.
And all these different shades of dosa that you mentioned have something in common, and that we can call the characteristic of dosa. So whereas attachment is like sticking to the object, dosa is the opposite, pushing away the object. So anything that has that characteristic, whatever label we give it conventionally, is dosa. So we come back to the idea that realities are to be known by their characteristic rather than by the conventional designation or the situation or anything like that.
I think you were here the other day when we were talking about chanda, interest. So even now when there's a bit of anxiety, not liking what is thought about, at that moment there is interest in the story that is thought about. What will people think about me? There's chanda at that moment too. So many different cetasikas, so many unwholesome cetasikas arising together with dosa at this very moment. And then it's gone, and now a moment of considering and understanding. The citta is calm, no dosa at that moment. So it's gone, everything is gone instantly.
And some of those conventional emotions that you mentioned, they may in fact be a mixture of dosa with something else. So for example, let's say anxiety there's a lot of excitement with anxiety. Possibly there's some, I don't know, maybe some attachment mixed up, intermingled with the moments of dosa. Difficult to separate them. And we don't try to separate them, but just to appreciate that the reality is there, or the realities are there, and whatever appears, appears.
Do you know dosa?
Some part of it
When?
in the past. Not now, like
Not now, but when it's there, no word.
like no word.
Is dosa a kind of feeling?
It is not, but it could be accompanied by a certain kind of feeling.
What kind of feeling arises with dosa?
Unpleasant, like John said.
Would you like to have dosa?
No.
No one, but it's there. Chanda, interest to be such. See, So many realities are there unknown, unexpectedly, that it's there too. Otherwise, if you think that it's not the object of interest, no interest in it, the end of dosa. That's why there are many realities cannot be known by oneself, but it's there to consider whether it's true or not. So very subtle.
And we think that we can know about dosa in the past, but actually it's just thinking about my dosa in the past. The dosa itself can only be known at this moment. So that's why it always has to come back to this moment to actually understand the dosa when it appears. Otherwise, it's just thinking about the story of the dosa that was there. So it's so helpful to understand that what we're talking about is now.
And the conventionally knowing that one has anger, for example, is maybe an example of what you were meaning by in the past, because the anger that is known conventionally by anyone, of course, has already fallen away. It's not the same as the awareness that is aware of dosa that's appearing at the present moment.
Is dosa a reality?
It is.
Or is you?
There is an understanding that it's me, but it's not. It's separate moments.
But when there is a little more understanding of dosa, it's less attachment to it as I, because it's there by conditions and it's gone. It cannot go on having dosa all days because there are moments of seeing, hearing too.
So maybe what is thought of as dosa is just thinking about dosa. Is that right?
Different dosa's. There must be
different
seeing as well at moment of having dosa. What is more dangerous?
The thinking that it's dosa. When
Thinking is thinking. What is more dangerous? The most dangerous.
moha, not understanding.
So as long as it's moha, there must be dosa, depending on the degrees of understanding.
Is it are dosa always conditioned by moha? Always?
Certainly.
Moha and Loba.
Is loba, because no loba, then no dosa.
I think we're talking about different things. There's dosa must be with moha at that time, but dosa cannot arise with lopa. What Haji is saying is that without lopa, without attachment to sense objects, there wouldn't be any dosa.
Thank you.
Talking about Loba and dosa. So Meta asked me for a little bit more detail about Sumana, who was Anathapindika's third daughter, and she was a Sakadagami. Some people may think that a Sakadagami has less lobha, so not of a degree that it can lead to great grief, for example. But as we read, Sumana had become a Sotapanna, and she was overwhelmed, according to the text, she was overwhelmed at her disappointment to find a husband, and refused to eat and refused to see her father. And she passed away. But before she passed away, she saw her father, Anathapindika. He went to her when he heard about the problems, and he asked her why she was calling him her youngest brother, and told her that she was speaking nonsense. Not only was she fading away, but she was speaking nonsense, calling her father youngest brother. And anyway, she passed away, and Anathapindika spoke to the Buddha and said that he was, not only did she pass away, but she was raving incoherently, talking about him as youngest brother. But the Buddha said, no, she was a Sakadagami. But it shows how even for Sakadagami, there can be strong grief conditioned by lobha and ignorance. Her father, yes, yes. And he had 3 daughters. Sumana was his youngest daughter, and his daughter-in-law was Visakha's younger sister. I mentioned it because we actually discussed it once before, and for some reason the Thai translation is shorter, but afterwards I checked the Pali translation in full, and it's like it shows in the English. I actually sent it to someone, I think Sukin, and asked him to give it to you, but you may not have received.
Sorry, Kaptan Achan. I think that it's already the time.
Yeah. I think Ajahn has to go to an appointment. Ajahn has to go to an appointment, so that was why the time was changed. So I think we can